Hello and welcome to Room 420 presented by Veriheal. I am here today with my good friend Gian Carlo. He is a New Mexico resident as well as a jiu-jitsu coach, practitioner. You are a
No,
purple belt now
I'm
or
still a
black
blue
belt?
belt.
Where are you
I
at
am
now?
just a good blue belt. Yeah.
You've been doing a lot of competitions,
Yeah.
correct?
It's funny. I've been competing consistently for like the past 6 months. I'm finally taking a break, competing against UFC fighters, just high level jiu-jitsu competitors. I even competed in Sacramento, High Rollerz in Las Vegas. Where else? El Paso. Just been traveling, so it's now good to like just take a break, let some injuries heal, and yeah, just relax. Actually, just coach.
What has the jiu-jitsu lifestyle been like for
uh,
you?
it's been great. I mean, it's an addiction. Uh, it's an addiction that doesn't really. It's it's hard to explain it to people when you're like, oh, uh, I bet like you get paid a lot as a professional jiu-jitsu grappler, and it's like, no, there's definitely barely any money in it for now. It's growing. It's slowly growing for sure. But if you were to like tell your parents back then, like 10 years ago, oh, I'm gonna quit my job, I'm not going to college to do jiu-jitsu, hell, even myself, if I was to go back in time, I'd be like, are you fucking nuts? I can't curse here, can I? Oh,
Oh, you
okay,
can
cool.
curse.
Just making. Whoops. But now it's really fulfilling, especially being a coach, helping people with their mental illnesses. It's such a great way to uh, just be better, and mentally, physically, it's it's a workout physically and mentally, especially when it comes to strategizing, learning your body a lot more, uh, learning how you heal properly, what are uh, just steps to just fulfill yourself in every aspect of life.
Now, you said you've done a lot of competitions, and one in particular I wanted to ask you about was the High Rollers competition. For people who don't know, can you explain what that is?
So is this cannabis infused jiu-jitsu competition? It was on Vice Media. It's pretty different. It started out with you and your opponent have to smoke a joint before you go grapple each other, which shows like a some sort of like it's just a form of camaraderie, and especially as a cannabis enthusiast as like myself, and then being a jiu-jitsu competitor, it's just a niche of people that are just like me. So it's really cool. Like when I went over there, we like High Rollers have their own HQ now in Vegas. We went over there, and I went to go help out a friend of mine who was competing the day before me. So I'm just seeing like my opponents for the next day and literally just smoking a joint with them and just talking about jiu-jitsu and how like it's great that this is an actual thing, and we're getting just more recognition on, especially on YouTube, and I think it was on Pluto TV as well. It's yeah.
That's awesome. So, like, did you smoke? So you smoked a joint before you competed, or
Yeah. Cannabis is a huge it's a big
yeah,
part of my training. Before and after High
yeah,
Rollers. It's for me. It's just a great way to just kind of like wind down from just that adrenaline, especially
yeah.
like you're putting your body at risk when you're competing, and especially training and like just training camp is so much wear and tear on your body, and then just having something just to wind down, relax, not think about it, even though you're constantly thinking about it, is just a great way to just relax. It's like a therapy, but just every Saturday is just a ritual for me. There's like we do this open mat at Dark Haven Studio at 1 p.m. and I just smoke a bowl before going over there, and I'm just constantly just getting ready for High Rollers, if you know what I mean.
So almost when you get to high rollers, the
Oh, yeah.
training's already done. It's not like it's not like, oh, like I've never done this. Let's smoke the joint to get
Yeah.
ready for it. Do you think you have to train if it's like, okay, if I smoke one joint before going on high rollers, do I have to smoke two during training to kind of build it up?
Dude, I was so high for training camp, for high rollers especially. My coach Nate was just like, so like there was like 5 of us, and they were, he was just saying, okay guys, I need you guys to be really high before coming into training, because we need you guys to be prepared for a competition like this. They literally gave out free dabs, and there's unlimited dabs before you like start competing or even after. Like, it's just free dabs all day. So some of us weren't there that night, even though we were competing. I wasn't there. I mean, I lost my last high rollers match. I got caught in a buggy choke, and for those who don't know what a buggy choke is, it's such a silly submission because you're in a dominant position on top side control where your body's like perpendicular but on top, and you should feel that you're dominating the grappling match, correct? So with that, you're the person on top. The person on back gets their leg over and gets their arm over, and they're choking you from bottom. And it was, especially during that time, it was like a trendy submission, because in jiu-jitsu there's a lot of trends, especially like when it comes to leg locks. Now wrestling's becoming a thing again. But with this buggy choke, you're like, this is not a real submission, and then you get caught, and then you feel stupid for getting caught in it. So I got caught in it first, I escaped, and then I was like, this guy's not going to get me again. So I got on top again, on top side, and then he choked me with the same choke, and I was just like, damn. And like, just what I learned there is that I should have smoked more for my training camp. And I'm also a stubborn stoner.
I was curious about that because I'm like, okay, it's almost like I've seen the like chess boxing, where it's like, okay, you gotta train in chess and you gotta train in boxing, and if you're going to high rollers, you gotta be a great smoker as well as a great jiu-jitsu artist.
Yeah, it's like you have to be there with your full consciousness almost.
Mm. I think it's fascinating. Like, what was going through your head when you're not only just high, but also like getting choked out too? Was there like a moment where you're like, oh crap?
Yeah, 100%. And I was just telling myself how stupid I was during that moment too. I was like, man, I'm so stupid. I am so stupid. All right, tap. Like, I was just so upset. I got tapped out in front of I think it was Derek Brunson. I don't think it was. Probably. There's a lot of UFC fighters that go there. And even Wiz Khalifa was there, I think, the next day. So he probably paid attention.
Oh. Does Wiz Khalifa sponsor? Does he sponsor that?
Yeah, he does. Khalifa Kush.
Okay. And does he? I know he did Muay Thai. I don't know if you would know, but I know out of anybody that I know, you would probably know this. Does he compete now, like Muay Thai, or?
So he practices.
Or does he just train?
He just trains. He does a lot of kickboxing seminars at High Rollerz, which is cool. You're learning kickboxing from Wiz Khalifa. Like, not many people can say that. But it's a lot of people in that facility, a lot of like champions like Brandon Moreno, we use that facility to train there, even if their brand is not associated with cannabis. Unlike like the Diaz brothers, how a lot of MMA fighters are, hey, I'm a stoner and I fight, and you'd be surprised by the people that go to that facility that don't use that as their like brand.
So I think it's fascinating. It's something I wanted to talk to you about. We've talked about cannabis use in jiu-jitsu and MMA, and that it is kind of like an open secret almost. The Diaz brothers, specifically Nick Diaz, has been kind of the, unfortunately, the martyr for that with getting in trouble. What did you think about that situation when that happened?
it was frustrating to watch, especially following the whole trial. I think he lost like 5 years of his career, and I mean, it totally affected it. I think he got suspended for 5 years when he was like in his like mid 20s or even the 30s already, and in your athletic prime is usually when you're from like 28 to 33 years old, 34 years old, especially as an MMA fighter, where you age faster than any other athletes because you're constantly just getting damage, head trauma, other injuries like ACLs is pretty common. But it was really frustrating with the fines that he had to pay originally, and I think it's still silly that he still had to pay. Like, I think he paid a lot less than that. But it really opened a lot of people's eyes and started that argument of like, let's not suspend people over cannabis when it's actually helpful for recovery.
Have like other competitions been more stringent or strict, I guess, for you as far as cannabis?
No, it's not even restrictive with steroids at the moment, but they're all juiced up. But it's when it comes to cannabis use, it goes hand in hand with jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is just different. It's a passive martial art. They call it the gentle art, even though nowadays it doesn't look so gentle anymore, which it's realistic. But it's very laid back. Of course, there are some traditionalists that are kind of against it, or just they frowned upon it more. It's more them frowning upon it than actually being against it publicly. Especially when I can tell you probably like 98% of the jiu-jitsu community smokes weed. 100%.
I would love to do a study and verify that.
Yeah, for sure. I could, especially at a 10 Planet school where they're notoriously known for being cannabis users or even other things, but which influence a lot of our style. You know, I feel like Eddie Bravo, who founded 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, used cannabis to be creative with his jiu-jitsu, and which is funny because he named a jiu-jitsu move the vaporizer. So, and I think he has other names, and I understand why he has other names for it. So other schools are like, what is he saying? But we even have like this positional, like this defense position called crackhead control. Like so you're in a jiu-jitsu tournament and he's yelling crackhead control, and people are like, what?
Yeah. I like that with like any grapplings where there's so many like moves like that, like Peter the Mat, you know, like put LAPD, all kinds of stuff like that.
I feel like that's an American,
you know, spladle or like banana.
I feel like that's an American grappler thing.
Yeah, and like banana splits,
which is using jiu-jitsu now too.
Yeah. So all those are kind of goofy. I think something else I want to talk to you about. Like, you're a New Mexico resident. You've worked in the cannabis industry as well. So you're seeing starting April 1st, New Mexico started recreational cannabis. Have you seen kind of a change with people so far? I know it's like just early in its infancy.
So I was still a manager of a dispensary when they announced that recreational cannabis was happening. And being medical was already pretty unorganized, especially between the Department of Health and local cannabis dispensaries and companies here. It was just it was a long battle. It was just lots of money was put into it, especially with the system they use. I'm not sure if they use it in Denver, but we used BioTrack, which is the program we used here to communicate with the Department of Health. Like, oh, this person had this amount of units, especially with medical cannabis in New Mexico. Let's say a year ago, you had up to 200 units, meaning you have like up to 200 grams that a patient could have, and that would restart every 90 days. So just so there's no like illegal sales or people are just not going over their limits or whatever. Because I'm sure in Denver it's like 2 ounces, right, or an ounce that you can't buy up to.
I'd have to check. I'd have to check it. I'm not quite aware, and I'm not on the medical side. I've never been, even though we work for a medical company here at Veriheal. But we don't do product though. We help people get their carts.
So when it comes to New Mexico, like I literally the day that it was like recreational legal, went to one of the dispensaries, and one of their systems were down, and it was just I think it's because they weren't really ready for just the recreational sales. But then the company that was help fund the bill for recreational use, they all the systems were ready. They were pretty ready for that day. I remember being in those meetings where it was like constantly talked about every week. Just recreational is gonna happen. Just prepare. But it was surprisingly not as crazy as I thought it would be. You would think first day of recreational, there's going to be lines out the door. Yeah. People are going to be smoking the back of pickup trucks and just hopping around, or just no. It was pretty chill. It was pretty it wasn't too busy, but it was just normal. It's like if we were used to it already. A lot of New Mexican residents to the Colorado border who didn't have medical cards would actually go just to buy recreational marijuana and come back. And right now the state of Texas is doing that with us, and they have been doing that with us even when we were medical, because it wasn't that hard to get the medical card in New Mexico in the first place.
I think that's fascinating because I know every Coloradan goes to Wyoming for fireworks. I feel like there's always a state.
It's that grass is always greener on the other side in any state that you go to.
Yeah, but Coloradans would never take their weed up to Wyoming because it's so severe with the penalties up there. So I think that is, I think that's pretty fascinating. Is that I wanted to ask too, because I saw there was a law pertaining to public parks, for instance. You can't smoke at a public park, but if it's in a tent,
yes,
you're okay, because they consider it an extension of the home. So I was curious if people were just going to be setting up tents everywhere.
Or just wearing those hats that have the umbrella over it and saying, "That's my tent." There's loopholes, man. There are loopholes. Yep. This is my tent and this is my joint. I'm obeying laws.
It's an extension of home, Well, last thing I want to talk to you about, you've done some videos with Master Ken that have been awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us to check out?
Yeah, so I can't announce it yet, but it does involve cannabis and jiu-jitsu here in New Mexico. Soon it will be announced. It will just keep on the lookout at Dark Haven Studio on their Instagram, at Dark Haven Studio. And I am I'm pursuing a career in professional wrestling starting next month. So, just like this, one of my favorite pro wrestlers is also a stoner as well. His name is Rob Van Dam, who's also a martial artist. I'm following his footsteps in being a pro wrestler starting next month. So you can follow me at Main Event Poppy for more news coming up.
Dude, that is awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to you when you're high flying, dude. Whatever your style is. I know I've been a huge fan lately, like Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
I think I've made that known to a lot of people.
I love Orange Cassidy. Freshly squeezed, bro.
So he's been my favorite wrestler lately. Well, hey, John, I want to thank you so much for coming on this podcast, brother. It's good to talk to you again, man. If you guys at home, thank you for listening. Be sure to follow Veriheal to stay up to date on the latest in cannabis news and education. Thanks for listening, guys.